How to make a mixtape.
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts. First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing. You gotta kick it off with a killer, grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. There are a lot of rules.
I don't know.
Well, I was going to talk about at least how productive my fucking Sunday was. Homemade caramels, 4.85 mile run. I cleaned up the house.
I'm proud of you. That is impressive.
Let me ask you a question. There's a lot of funny shit that happened today. Okay, so you grew up in Indiana.
Yeah.
I ran to the grocery store this morning and I had a moment where I was checking out in self-checkout. And as I'm doing it, there's a little girl next to me, like maybe 12 years old, and like legit adult checking out at the grocery store. And it's like pouring rain outside. And all I picture is like the mom, like, just run in and grab these 3 things. Don't grab anything else. Like she's got the debit card. Do you remember that moment as a child? Like run into the grocery store and like she totally snuck a bag of Skittles.
The freedom. Mm-hmm. The freedom.
I don't know if the bag of Skittles was on the list of the 3 items to get, but probably she had them. I hope she doesn't show mom the receipt.
Or it might have been one of those, you can buy something with the change.
You can buy one chocolate. You can buy one candy.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then that sparked another conversation where our parents, it was this big, massive conversation I was having about how that doesn't happen anymore as I saw this happening. And it's like, now would be the safest time to let your kids go buy groceries quickly in the grocery store.
It feels like it'd be way safer now. Yeah.
When we were doing it, it was like a free-for-all, you know? Like now you can put a damn Apple AirTag in your kid's shoe so you can track them wherever the hell they go.
Yeah, you can.
Whereas like back in the day, I probably was getting into way more shit than I should have gotten into.
Well, there's cameras everywhere now, and like people are on high alert for that stuff now too.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we're probably watching out. Or
I feel like a lot more people should be sending their kids into grocery stores.
Just grocery stores though?
Just it's exclusively grocery stores.
Exclusively grocery stores, yeah. Not running into Grab Mom's dry cleaning or like
no, exclusively grocery stores because I want the kid to be rewarded with a bag of Skittles. I think they deserved it. They earned it
too. Yeah.
Did you listen to Car's mixtape?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think? How'd she do?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Did you not?
I thought her 1 and 2 were great.
I did too. Yeah, you could tell she put thought into it.
Yep.
And to be honest, after that, it's kind of tough. I thought she followed up again pretty well. I forget.
Yeah.
But I think she placed that pretty well.
Yeah, it was a great order for her mixtape. I think it's one of the better ones that I had heard in a minute. We didn't talk about Jess's. How do you think Jess did? Did we talk about Jess's?
No, we didn't talk about Jess's.
Okay.
I also think pretty good. Honestly,
perfect closer on Jess's.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Perfect closer.
Well, I think the last half is great. Like Neil Young kind of back middle is smart, right? Because it's a little mellower, but then it just kind of like kicks ass. The next 3 songs are just like in your face, and then close with the latest is smart.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah. These are some of the better
solid
sequenced mixtapes that we've had. Way to go, girls.
I agree.
There was something else I wanted to bring up to you, and I can't remember what I went and saw LCD Sound System the other day.
Yep. Yeah, you were talking about that, and I was jealous. And I would ask how it was, but I know the answer is going to be it was amazing. So
yeah, dude, there's so many of them. I think there was like 8 or 9 people on stage at any given time, and they had this really cool like interactive backlight board that would like engage as they were engaging, like shit would happen. It was a very, very cool show. So Chicago venue is called the Aragon Ballroom. You familiar? You ever been to a show there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Once.
It's who'd you see?
Shit, I don't remember.
It's hit or miss.
I mean, who did I see there?
Who did you see there?
The Bosstones?
Fuck. Was it great?
I'm pretty sure I saw the Bosstones there. Yeah, I mean, they're awesome.
I hope it was great. Yeah. I saw, so this, another side about the singer of the Bosstones is in a new supergroup that opened for Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. That's very weird.
Really?
Yeah.
What's it called? I wasn't aware of this.
Defiant, but it is a supergroup. And
yep, that's it.
Yep. Give that a jingle.
What's weird about it? No, you can't just dangle that it's weird and just like leave it there. What's weird about it? Members of whoa. You can't just drop this on me. Members of Mighty Mighty Bosstones, The Offspring, Smash Mouth.
Yep. Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's the Defiant.
And others.
I saw they opened for Me First, but I didn't see Me First at the Aragon. I saw Me First at the House of Blues, best venue in Chicago. Talked about it before. I saw the Defiant open for Me First, and it's just, let me think of how I want to put it. It's fine. I don't want anybody to hang it up. I don't want to see anybody hang it up. I want everybody to continue to enjoy contributing to music that we love. And things like that. It was unexpected. That's a great way to describe it. It was unexpected. It's a punk band, it's for sure a punk band, and it's fine. Don't hang it up.
I'm not even sure what I would expect from this, because it's the drummer of The Offspring, the guitar player for Smash Mouth, the bass player of Street Dogs, the guitarist and keyboardist for the Briggs, and then Dickie from Boston singing. Like, I wouldn't have an expectation necessarily of what that would sound like. So I'm going to give this a listen just because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
listen to the Defiant. And then shortly before I saw Me First, I saw Alkaline Trio at the Aragon, and it was fucking terrible. It was the fucking worst. They played for 45 minutes. It was St. Paddy's Day weekend, and the crowd couldn't have been worse. The sound couldn't have been worse. Like, it was just a shit show. And then I saw LCD Sound System at the Aragon last night, and it was fucking so good. God, it was good. The crowd was so fun. The show was so fun. Everybody was there to have a great time. It just shows you that the crowd can really make or break the show in some cases. For sure.
I honestly, it's been forever since I've been to the Aragon or Argon?
Aragon Ballroom.
I barely remember it, but
it's it's a cool venue that is big and it's almost a little too big for what you want it to be. It's a weird venue for sure, but it's fun.
Well, still don't have an intro written for this thing. I got to figure out what we want to say at the beginning of this thing. But this is How to Make a Mixtape podcast. I'm Roderick. You're Donnie.
Mm.
We're going to have a guest. We're going to talk about music. We're going to put a mixtape together based on the theme. And I guess that's the best way to explain it. I'll just leave it at that for now until I have a catchier intro for this thing.
And this episode is going to be the first of many of its kind.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple. I think we did the backpack rap one, which was like intro to backpack rap. I see that being a regular thing, right? Where we can like do an intro
to a genre
or a subgenre. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a best of
year in review.
It's a year in review. Yeah, we'll just give it away. This is going to be the best of a year, or like our mixtape of songs that came out in a certain year. And that's got, we could do a ton of episodes around that because there's been a lot of years.
We could do.
So
there have been a lot of years.
Been a lot of years that have happened.
We can talk about each year.
And if before anybody asks, like after we introduce the theme later, why that year, I put it in a number generator, and that's what it kicked out.
Oh, so that's right.
That's what we're doing. I was like, I don't want the stigma of why did you choose that year? Why didn't you choose that year?
And just because we've recorded, or because we're recording this year, doesn't mean we're not going to record a lot of other years. Because you know what, right, Rod? There have been a lot of years.
There's been a lot of years. This is one thing I know. There's been a lot of years.
Uh-huh.
Do you want to do this?
Yeah, let's. I mean, I don't have anything else to cover. You know what? Maybe that's the poll. You know what, Rod? Maybe that's the poll.
What?
Do the listeners prefer hour 15 or do the listeners prefer hour 45?
Yeah. We've run the gamut, and that's a good one. Donnie and I are way too obsessed with analytics, and we're either reading into them too much or the right amount. I'm not sure, but we're trying to figure out the right length for these. So let us know. I'll put up a poll. Let us know
what's your preferred
right length of an episode is.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. Well, last thing I'll say before we let our guest in, he may have listened to an episode today. I'm not sure, but when I invited him on, he had not heard the podcast.
First time listener, long time call.
This might be an interesting one where he may never have listened to this, and so he might be learning as we go.
Dang, first time listener.
Yeah, so we'll bring him on here.
All right, let's do the damn thing.
Hey, Donnie.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored. That's a new one.
Yep. No, and I'll tell you this much. This sponsor couldn't be a bigger bummer because it's definitely not Sotfo or Casper. But if you do have a small business that you need advertisement for, there's no better way to advertise than stickers.
Yep.
Right?
Slappers, sticky boys.
Stick them on light posts. You get people to put them on their car. And small businesses should be supporting small businesses. So this official sticker sponsor of How to Make a Mixtape is a brand called Little Gimmicks. And Little Gimmicks, it's at Little Gimmicks on Instagram. That's your primary mode of communication right now. It is a small business owned by a buddy that's killing it in the sticker game. No minimum orders. You can order as few stickers as you'd like. High quality outdoor graded vinyl. Quality controlled by one person. They claim they're made with love, but I'm pretty confident they don't wash their hands. Quick turnaround time. They are in the Midwest, so they got some pride about where they're from. And other than that, I said in the reply as they were giving me information to talk about Little Gimmicks, I said, should I make sure I tell them how much of a wiener you are? And he said, yep, really lean into how much of a dummy I am. So if you want that person to be responsible for stickers to advertise your small business.
Yeah, if you want some sweet stickers by a big old dummy, go to Little Gimmicks and get those stickers.
Little Gimmicks, at Little Gimmicks on Instagram. Get yourself some custom stickers made.
Do they get a discount if they mention us?
They do. Yeah, it's 10% off. You get 10% off your order.
Oh, yeah.
If you mention How to Make a Mixtape when you contact him on Instagram, and he'll make you some damn stickers. We got some stickers coming out soon.
Yeah, and you know what I was stoked about is he's doing die cut stickers, which some places don't do. I mean, you know what I mean? Like you can get some cool shit.
Yeah, full color. They look awesome.
I'm stoked from him. Big old dummy doing big old cool stuff. So thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Little Gimmicks.
Thanks, Little Gimmicks.
Thanks for sponsoring this episode.
Appreciate it.
Back to the episode.
How to make a mixtape.
All right, we are here with this week's guest, old friend of mine, Ron Placone. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Good to see y'all. I had this in my calendar as Rod's Pod, and I was really proud of myself.
Yeah, that's good.
That's how I had it in my Google Calendar.
That's actually the first. Believe it or not, that's the first time I've heard. I've heard
really?
that. So yeah.
All right.
So nailed it. So Ron, you're a stand-up comedian. You're a podcaster. You've got a podcast called 1000. You were a writer, right? I guess actor as well. You've got a movie out right now. I feel like there's probably more credentials that I'm missing, but you kind of all the things. What do you got going on right now? Tell the people.
Yeah, I've been trying to stay busy. I mean, I don't know when this drops, but I have a movie that I finished, and we've been doing the theatrical run of it, just a very small one. So our final domestic screening in the U.S. is going to be June 8th. In Idlewild, California, which is a little mountain town outside of LA. There's a really cool theater called the Rustic Theater there. Myself and some other cast members, we're going to do a short stand-up show to open the night, watch the movie, and then do a Q&A after. So that's June 8th in Idlewild, California. And then we're going to go through the next steps with the movie. I don't have anything I can announce yet there, but should have some exciting announcements over the next few months. And then we're going to do a small theatrical run in England. In September.
Dang.
So
do you get to go there?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah. I'll kind of do a similar formula where I'll do like 15 minutes of stand up to open it, screen the movie, and then do a Q&A. And I'm going to do London, Sheffield, and Morecambe. It looks like.
Oh, cool.
Yep. And movie's called Left at Wall.
Left a Wall, yeah. The official, we had to tweak the trailer some for the official release, so the official trailer will be dropping this week, at least as of the recording of this coming week. And it took me about 2.5 years when all was said and done, but we're just about at the finish line now, and yeah, things are happening. It's screened in Pittsburgh, my hometown, and it's screened in Los Angeles, and then we've done some kind of virtual screenings as well. So getting it out there.
Give me the elevator pitch, Ron. What's it about?
It is a comedy between a brotherly feud, loosely inspired by, rather, the GameStop incident of 2021.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, but it's a totally fictional story.
Does Gareth Reynolds play your brother?
Gareth Reynolds plays my brother.
Yeah. We've got a lot of friends. In fact, our first ever guest on the show, Ashley, she's a huge Dollop fan.
Oh, nice.
Which you've actually written.
Yeah, I've written a few episodes for them. Yeah, Dave and Gareth are great. They're like, yeah, they're really awesome people, and yeah, Dave is in the movie as well. So there's actually there's a fun little Easter egg for Dollop fans in the movie. I will mention
nice.
that there's a fun Easter egg for Dollop fans, and yeah, I've written some of my favorite episodes that I was part of. I mean, some of them I co-wrote with Dave, some of them I just kind of wrote on my own. But I did the Steven Seagal episode, the 3-parter with Dave.
Yeah,
and so I think like part 1 I did most of the lifting on. Part 3 was like pretty much all Dave. Like I don't even know if I should have been mentioned in part 3. And then part 2 was like really half and half. So I feel like it really was like a 50-50 effort. And then Colin Powell, I did Colin Powell. And then this is probably my favorite one that I had part in was Brooks Brothers. I really like that was.
I don't know that I've listened to that one. I need to go back and listen. I've definitely listened to the Steven Seagal and the Colin Powell.
Yeah,
the Steven Seagal was a bit of a heavy lift, but
it was nuts, dude.
But it was broken 3 parts, and it was so crazy the whole time that you're like, what the hell?
It did not miss a moment. And you know what's so crazy is like, I thought I had like covered every nook and cranny when I like turned in the initial ideas, and then you come to find out it's like, no, this dude was off the freaking wall. I got about half of it, you know? And I really took my time, but yeah.
It reads like fiction. It's just, he's such an absurd human being. It's wild.
And you know what the craziest thing is? Like I, wrote part of that series and I listened to all of it, and I will still see stuff online about that guy that we both like, even like when we covered his albums and stuff, just like shit that we forgot to put in there or just didn't think to put in there that should have been in there with his albums. And anyway.
Ron, I'm looking at this. You had Sage Francis in the movie.
Sage does an appearance. Yeah. He has a.
We have had Sage on a previous mixtape of one of our artists.
Nice.
We're coming full circle. No shit.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's cool.
So we did Intro to Backpack Rap as one of our themes in the past, and I put Makeshift Patriot as the song that I chose for an Intro to Backpack Rap from Sage Francis.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. He makes a cameo in the movie. It's fun.
Very cool.
That's cool. You've had some pretty awesome, like you've had like Russ from Good Riddance was on your podcast, and Jello Biafra was on your podcast too, right? So some punk legends there. And
yeah, I mean, this podcast is the newest thing I've done, and I've been wanting to do it for like literally almost a decade. And a couple things that I had been up to, came to an end. And I was getting a little burnt out on the other show I had called Get Your News On with Ron, and was just ready for a change. So I started this thing, and yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like a couple people just were down to do it because it just sounded cool to them, or somebody vouched for me. So yeah, I'm trying. It's kind of starting over again in a way, but I'm really enjoying it. So I'm like, oh, it's worth it,
Well, if people want more info on all this stuff, they can go to ronplacone.com, right? And everything's on there.
Everything is there. Everything is there, and there'll be more coming very, very soon. So
awesome. Yeah. The albums on the stand-up albums on there, right? Your comic they can get to. I forgot to mention you have a comic.
Yeah, I have a comic. My cat, me and Lucy. If we do Lucy and Ron, yeah, I think you might be in one of them actually.
Dang.
Am I?
I think so, because we did the origin story. So there's like, so there's like all the college buddies are like there, and I sent Chris the artist a bunch of pictures of all my college friends.
I see you post the comics online and stuff. I'll have to go back and look. I don't think I noticed it, but
check out the origin story. Cool, I mean, you're probably going to see a cartoon where you're like, oh, that's kind of supposed to, because they're just I just sent them pictures of my college buddies, and I'm like, these were my college buddies. So yeah,
right on. Well, thanks for being on, Ron. Stoked to have you. And yeah, I guess as you just said, we met in college, so that's how I know you. So Donnie was like, so Donnie's awesome, by the way. When I suggest a guest, because he never asks who they are or why I'm going to have them on or whatever. He's just like, yeah, cool, sounds good. And then right before he'll be like, who is this person and how do you know them? And it's like, Ron and I went to college together. Ron had a pretty infamous apartment that he lived in that was kind of the place to be every Thursday for like 2 or 3 years.
Every Thursday, man.
It was a mixture between like a typical college party and like a,
commune.
Fucking yeah, like kind of. It was like the introduction to the friend group. Like I remember when I first met Zach, who was also a guest on the podcast. When I first met Zach, one of the first things I did was I brought him to I2 on a Thursday to like meet people. Like it was like your introduction to the group, and that thing just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
Dude, it was the place.
Yeah, a lot of friends I met there. The only time in my life I've ever seriously been punched was at I2.
Oh, that's right. That guy punched you. Yeah.
Yeah, on your 21st birthday.
Oh my God.
What'd you do, Rod?
Yeah, it wasn't me.
I didn't do anything. He thought I was somebody else. He thought I was.
Oh yeah.
He thought I was our friend Patrick.
It's like the ultimate Coming to America bit right now.
I
thought you were somebody else.
He thought I was our friend Patrick.
Why was Patrick being punched? What did Patrick do?
I don't think Patrick did anything either, to be fair. But this guy was just really drunk and thought, I don't know what he thought, to be honest. He was just super drunk. I was trying to get him. It was snowing, and I was trying to get him and his girlfriend pointed in the right direction to their place, and he just.
The puncher punched you
me
amidst your help?
Yeah. Yeah. And he called me Patrick and then clocked me.
Some crazy times, man.
Fucking Patrick.
I still want there to be some day where we all just pick a weekend and just go back to Bloomington and be those old people just for like one weekend.
Where we just walk around the town pointing at things.
Yes.
Saying, remember that? Look at that. Yeah. We already teased the theme in our intro that we did before we hopped on, Ron, but we didn't announce the year. So this is going to be the best of a year. But what year are we doing? Let the people know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're doing 1987, which, dude, solid pick. This was,
Thank you, random number generator.
Yeah, it was a random number generator. But
really?
Yeah.
Dude, I have a lot of thoughts on the year. I mean, I don't know if we want to like set it up on the tee this way, but I mean, it's a very interesting year for music, I think.
Oh, there was a lot.
I mean, you can give some general thoughts if you want, or you can save it for your individual picks. That's your call, but it was an interesting year.
Well, I just think it's a year where there was still a lot of stuff happening, but we were in between. Like we were kind of in between stages of punk. Like the early years were over. It's like Dead Kennedys were not happening. Minor Threat was not happening, but Fugazi was about to start. We were right before the kind of indie rock college thing really took off. We were right before, hip hop was really gonna, have quite a moment. I mean, we were years after Lost Poets, but there was about to be a wave that says we're a force to be reckoned with. You had hair metal still going strong, and you had some poppy stuff, and then you also had the rockers from the 70s, who many of whom were not putting out their best stuff, comparatively speaking, but were still putting out stuff. It was just an interesting time for music, and it's some good, some bad, a lot in between, but some really, really good as well.
I couldn't believe how many albums I looked up that came out in 1988, and I was like, son of a bitch. Like there were so many albums that I'm like, oh, this has got to be 1987. And then there was a ton of albums that came out January 1st of 1988, and I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me, man. So I couldn't use a bunch that I wanted to, but I got some bangers for sure.
Yeah, interesting year. I'm excited to get into this. Before we get going, let me read the mixtape guidelines here as inspired by the wonderful film High Fidelity here. So, number 1, you got to have a killer opening track that grabs the listener's attention. Number 2, each song should flow smoothly into the next, creating a seamless listening experience. Number 3, the mixtape should have a good balance of different genres, tempos, and moods. Variety keeps things interesting. Number 4, the mixtape should tell a story or convey a specific emotion. It should take the listener on a journey. Number 5, it can't be too obvious, but can't be too obscure either, unless that's the theme. Number 6, you can't double up on songs by the same artist. And number 7, the closing track should leave a lasting impression and make the listener crave more. Just so you know, Ron, these are more guidelines than rules, except for the artist one. You can't double up on songs by the same artist, which I let you know about. A lot of these others are for when you decide on the order after this. You want a great closing track, a great opener, et cetera, et cetera. So at this point, man,
fuck it up, Ron. We're harsh critics.
Yeah,
we're harsh critics, Ron. We got real big opinions on whether or not your order is right.
We do. That's the one thing we do have big opinion. Well, we have a lot of big opinions, but you want to go first, second, or third, man?
You know what? I'll go first because
smart move.
Yeah,
it's a good call.
Smart move.
It is a smart move. All right, Ron Placone, first pick.
All right, so my first pick, and I feel like this is quite a banger to open any mixtape. The Smiths. Stop me if you think that you've heard this one before.
You even wore the t-shirt for it today.
I did wear the t-shirt.
Oh, that was cute.
Like,
did you wear that t-shirt on purpose?
Yeah, I was like, I should wear a t-shirt appropriate for the. And honestly, there's a lot of t-shirts that I have that would be appropriate for 1987, but I chose this one, and that was sort of what I had as my opener. And when I look at my first three, I'm like, that's just such a. I feel like that's such a cool opener for a mixtape. And when I saw Johnny Marr live, he opened with like one of his solo tunes, and then he went into Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before, and the crowd went freaking nuts. And then he proceeded to play 85% Smith songs, and it was, one of the coolest concerts I've ever been to.
I've heard, and I haven't seen him live, so you'd have to tell me if this is true, but I've heard a lot of people who have seen both Johnny and Morrissey live that they preferred Johnny.
I'm one of them.
Live, one, and
Big
two
time.
preferred like the Smith stuff better from Johnny.
Agreed on both. I agree on both of those.
Dang.
Having seen both, I've seen Morrissey about, I think, 4 or 5 times, and I've only seen Johnny once. And I agree with both those sentiments. In fact, the last time, so this is sort of a fun little aside. I had the last time Morrissey, well, actually 2 times ago, because the last time he canceled at the last minute, as he's prone to do. But 2 times ago, when he was playing LA and the concert actually happened, I was doing a show myself in Santa Monica, and some of my friends came out, just to hang. It was at like a kind of cool thing, and they just came to hang out. And they go, Morrissey is playing at the Bowl, and I'm like, yeah. And they go, we should go. And I'm like, should we though? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't. But they had never seen him. And I even said, I'm like, I feel like we should just go. Like, how about we just wait and get Johnny Marr tickets the second they go on sale? Why don't we do that instead? But they were really going. So I was like, all right, let's go. So we show up to the Hollywood Bowl, and people are leaving in droves. And so we stop and we're like, is the concert over? And they're like, no, but they kind of look kind of sad. So apparently Morrissey...
I mean, they were at a Morrissey show. You would expect them to look... Yeah, so...
They're going to be somewhat sad, yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently he was playing just, not a very enthusiastic set list, and the audience was just not into it, and he could tell. So he just looks out at them, and he goes, if you want to hear Smith songs, go to a Johnny Marr show. And some of the audience said, noted. And they freaking left. And I felt bad, but I turned to my friends. I'm like, I told you we should have... I mean, what did I say? I've seen him. And I've seen Marr. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, Johnny Marr is not the world's greatest singer, but it's like the audience is singing all those songs anyway. So it's like it doesn't matter. And
Morrissey's just prone to a hissy fit, isn't he? He's just prone to a little fit.
He seems like not a very good guy, especially in recent years. Some of the stuff he said, you're just like, oh, geez. Okay, I can't really, I think it was awesome when The Simpsons trolled him, and they implied that he actually ate meat, and that he was a racist, and that he needed money, and
it was one of those things where it all came true. It was like The Simpsons predicting the future.
Well, no, it was that when Morrissey rebuted, responded, he just said, look, I do not eat meat and I am fine financially. They didn't even try to touch the racism thing.
Didn't touch the racism
thing. They're like, that last one, we can't even, he said enough. We can't even try. But those other 2 things, no way. Doesn't eat meat and has money.
God, sounds about right. This might be the Smiths album that I have the least relationship with, Ron, but you're a bigger Smiths fan than me. I do love the Smiths.
Roderick, who's up? Is it you or me?
No, I went before you last one, so it's you, Donnie. So Ron, start out with Smiths. What are you following up with, Donnie?
I'm getting it out of the way. Ron, it's going to be hard to figure out what's going to be your first track, because I don't know if you're going to do yours or if you're going to do Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses.
I was just waiting for it.
It had to be. It had to be.
I knew it did.
Favorite band of all time. Album's perfect front to back. Seen them a bunch I never saw them in their heyday, but saw them a bunch recently. They're fantastic still. Last time I saw them, they played in Chicago. They played for 4 hours straight. I wrote the set list down in my phone like a fucking nerd. They're still fucking killing it. I mean, does Axl sound like old Axl? No, of course not. He's a lot older than he was, you know? I mean, Duff McKagan is defying age somehow, but they're just fucking fantastic still. Is the new song good? No, of course not. But you can't deny how good Welcome to the fucking Jungle is.
So I actually had Sweet Child.
You did?
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, I love Welcome to the Jungle. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. There's just some Sweet Child is just such a banger that was just the one I picked. But
I mean, this is the record. It's anything off this.
the
whole album.
This was the one.
The whole fucking album.
This is the one, Appetite. I know, they got a little ambitious with Use Your Illusion. They didn't need to be a double album.
I love them both.
They nailed it. And that's great. And you're a bigger Guns N' Roses fan than me. But nobody can argue with Appetite. I'm not even a huge Guns N' Roses fan, but this is great. It's a great album. It's peak. It's peak.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
GNR.
You want to bring it all together and talk about who played guitar on the most recent full album release on Chinese Democracy? You want to bring it all the way back around, Rod?
I don't know who played guitar in it. Who played guitar in it?
On Chinese Democracy? It was fucking Buckethead.
No shit. Jesus Christ. Of course he did.
I saw Guns N' Roses with Buckethead, and it was fucking awesome.
Oh, man. The amount of times that Buckethead has come up on this podcast, Ron, is frankly getting embarrassing at this point.
Perfectly appropriate.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll keep talking about him because it's just a ridiculous thing to talk about. And that's not me saying his talent is ridiculous, but he's a bit ridiculous. I mean, the dude wears a bucket on his head.
Very ridiculous.
He's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it's ridiculous he's come up so much. But fair enough.
So many times.
He played guitar in GNR. Someday we'll probably do a new metal episode, and I'm sure he'll come up in the new metal episode too. So just waiting for it.
Yeah.
Although I can go without doing that for a while.
yeah, for sure. Again, 1987. I don't know if I told the story. It was my uncle's second wife's son, Brad, that introduced me to hair metal in Southern Indiana. Had the fucking Dr. Feelgood poster on the wall. And I remember hearing Guns N' Roses for the first time. I'm probably 7, and I'm well, that's the best band I've ever heard. There'll never be a better band than that in this moment. And Brad was fucking cool. I think he had ripped up jeans, and I was you're a cool guy too.
Yeah.
So
everybody had an uncle or a cousin or a cousin uncle or whatever that
a
introduced
cousin once removed. Yeah, for sure. But it had to be GNR. It had to be Appetite. It had to be Welcome to the Jungle.
I mean, we're getting some of the big one. It's all going to be big hitters on this, but we're going to keep big hitters going. Smiths, GNR, and I'm going to start the Smiths Cure feud because I'm going the Cure just like Heaven.
Oh man!
Shit, direct steal.
Oh.
I mean, that's the one you're going to pick from '87, though. That was the track.
So I actually have One More Time on my list.
Did you have One More Time? Of course you did, Ron. You're too cool for Just Like Heaven.
No, Just Like Heaven's one of my favorite songs in the freaking world. I One More Time just fit my mix a little better. And
Gotcha.
Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me is one of my favorite albums of all time. Maybe my favorite. I mean, it's hard to just pick one, but that album, start to finish, I just freaking love. I don't know if you ever were around when me and Adam Doherty would just sit and listen to that album start to finish at 2:30 in the morning.
I don't know that I was. I lived with Adam for a little bit, and he listened to a lot of Cure, and I knew you listened to a lot of Cure.
Yeah, we would sometimes at the end of the night when everyone else, we would just put on the Kiss Me album and just have a couple of nightcaps and just it was great. I mean, that album, start to finish, is just so freaking beautiful. And there's so many tracks I would want to use. And Just Like Heaven, I mean, that's just the perfect. I mean, there's just so much joy in that freaking song. And
I mean, there's, from a standout or I guess what you would consider a traditional single standpoint, it's probably got to be Just Like Heaven. But I agree, this album is fantastic front to back. It's more of an album listener's album, and I mean that in a good way. There's not a lot of songs on here that I would have expected to maybe get a ton of radio play, but then you don't want to stop listening once you start listening to this record. There's no skips on it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I mean, there's 17 tracks, and there's really only, it was Just Like Heaven and Why Can't I Be You were pretty much the only singles. But it's just a flawless listen, perfect production, just a perfect just a perfect indie rock record from that era. And just, man, I listened to it. I think I listened to it pretty much nonstop for 2 years, like junior, senior year of high school. I don't think that CD left my Discman or whatever.
And I've only come to appreciate The Cure and Robert Smith more the older I get in life. Not musically, but not even just like the way he handles himself. Right?
He's a badass, dude.
He's awesome. Like, I love the way he handles himself.
Ticketmaster to task.
Dude,
he single-handedly took them down.
He's not like an outwardly like boisterous person. He's just true to himself. And he's just like, no, you're gonna fuck with me, guy. I'm gonna fuck back. But he's mellow. But he's like, but don't fuck with me.
Yeah, he went nuclear on them. And he called out everyone else too, because he was all like a bunch of the artists, they were like, well, we didn't really have it. And he goes, no, we were given a choice because The Cure said fucking no. Are we allowed to curse on this? I guess I didn't.
Absolutely. Okay, cool.
I just want to make sure. Yeah, no, I love Robert Smith. He's one of those people where if I ever get to meet him, I'll probably just like start saying just saying thank you and just start crying. Probably that's probably what I'll do, and it'll be kind of embarrassing, but.
Musical icon, fashion icon. He should be iconic just for the way he like carries himself as a human being, and just awesome all around band. So there you go, man. Smith's, GNR, and The Cure so far.
This is
interesting start.
Big solid, openers,
dude. This is
and a direct steal. I had The Cure, just like having on my list. Back-to-back episodes.
Well, it's back to you, Ron. What's your second track?
Okay, so you know what? Because you went The Cure, I'm going to go with a little bit of a theme here. And here's a band that has a famous Cure cover, but should definitely be here on their own. I'm going to go Dinosaur Jr. In a Jar. In a jar, the scars are plain to see. I hope somehow you'll know
Oh, dude, you're stealing one of mine now.
Did you have In a Jar? What track did you have?
No, I had Little Furry Things.
Oh, okay. So not a direct steal. I had In a Jar. Both bangers. Both bangers, yeah. But I had, and you know what's interesting? In a Jar. So on my list, In a Jar is third, but fourth is pretty close. So
yeah, it's wild to me that they were able to put out you mentioned the cover, like Just Like Heaven came out in '87, and they put a cover of it on their album that came out in '87. Maybe Just Like Heaven dropped as a single earlier, but like that's a quick turnaround. Like recording, like sticking that on your record the same year the song dropped. Like even just for a cover, like the idea of covering a song that came out the same year that you put it out is wild.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's back when like college radio was everything. So it probably hit college radio a little earlier, and then they just grabbed it and ran with it. And I wonder if back then they knew they were on a trend, because like everybody and their mother covers Just Like Heaven. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, I've seen Dinosaur I think 3 times, and they're really, really cool live.
They are.
And the first time I saw them, my girlfriend at the time, who I was with, we were watching the opening band, and she wasn't as familiar with Dinosaur as I was. She was just there, like for my sake. And the opening band was Love Is Laughter. We were watching their set, and she goes, "There's some guy behind me who looks like he's like homeless or he's lost or something." And I turn around and it's Jay Mascis.
Oh, of course.
And I'll go, that's Jay Mascis. And she goes, "Who?" And I'm like, that's Jay And I didn't say hi to him, but I was excited that he was standing behind me.
I've talked to him before. When they played in Bloomington, they went to the Vid. Used to had it downstairs for a while, and they just went and hung out down there. And it was just like Dinosaur Jr. and like 8 of us in this bar. That was it. After they played at the Bluebird, and we were just talking to Jay Mascis, and like obviously he's just a normal dude, but he was like down to just talk to people. It was awesome. They're one of the loudest bands I've ever seen. They probably are the second loudest show I've ever seen. Like it was like Propaganda and then Dinosaur Jr. Like they like you have to have earplugs. Like incredible. Like they tour with like double full stacks and shit. Like this.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Like just the massive speakers and shit. It's wild. But
have you ever read Our Band Could Be Your Life?
No, I haven't.
Dude, it's Michael Azerrad's book, and there's like a chapter on a bunch of bands, and the chapter on Dinosaur Jr. It's brutal. Like it's hard to get, like they hated each other. Like, I mean, they're okay now, it seems, but man, when you see them live, you're like, yeah, it makes sense. You all enter and exit from different sides of the stage, and maybe don't talk to each other a whole lot. Like their story is just brutal. They hated each other.
I just don't think of Dinosaur Jr. as a late 80s band, and I don't know why, but like I'm like, holy shit, this record came out in 87, not even like 89, right? Like 87. That just sounds so
old.
Well, it doesn't sound that old, though. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound...
The music doesn't sound old, but the album, like, it sounds like it came out a lot earlier or later than that, are you saying?
It sounds like it came later than that. Like, it was ahead of its time, in my opinion, I guess.
Totally.
What I'm saying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I would have guessed, like, their first one would have been, like, 89. Like, I would have guessed, like, they were right around Bleach. But I guess it makes sense they were a little bit before. And to be honest, like, when I was making my mixtape, I had to go to the interwebs to be like, did Dinosaur have an 87 release, or was that too early? And then I was like, oh snap, they did. This was 87.
Oh my God. Doing this podcast without the referencing thing, being able to look shit up on the internet.
We weren't allowed to look stuff up?
Oh, we totally are. I'm saying it'd be ridiculous if we couldn't. I don't have that much time on my hands, Ron. I'd
be wrong all of the time.
Yeah, I know. I need the research.
Yeah.
In a jar, huh? Yeah. It's a good pick. Man, there's been a lot of a lot of artists, duplicate artists so far.
I like that we're trying to fire all the big hitters first. I guess I'm going to go. I don't think that this is going to be a stealer, but I'm going to do it. And it's, on the episode that we had Dr. PCF on when we talked about the movies that we should have been watching as kids, one of those was definitely Mannequin. And so I'm going to go with Starship. Nothing's going to stop us now. Because it's fucking such a goddamn good song. And if you like the fact that we've talked a bunch about bands that reinvented themselves, and Jefferson Airplane turning into Jefferson Starship is pretty fucking iconic.
Then just turning into Starship too.
And then just turning into Starship.
Yeah.
So
after Grace left, right? She was like, you can't take the name Jefferson. Or was that it? Or was it? Somebody left and they were like, you can't use the name Jefferson now either. And they're like, all right, well, now we're Starship. So
fuck it, then we're Starship. And still putting out jams.
That's a fun pick.
And again, that movie, the fact that movie was in Mannequin, the fact that the movie Mannequin existed pretty aggressively. Like, I want to say it was a big deal.
You don't think that you're surprised that movie existed? Like, I feel like as a kid, every time I was in a department store, I was wondering if the mannequins came to life at night. So I'm not at all surprised.
Yeah, but it wasn't a kid's movie, man.
No, it wasn't a kid's movie. But just the idea, that's got to be like a universal idea. So somebody was bound to write a movie like that. You're right. It's not a kid's movie at all. But
yeah, it's a weird one. But I do love Hollywood for sure.
I like that song, dude. It's a banger of a song.
It's a great song. Yeah. I was singing it all day today. Loud. Way louder than I should have been singing it.
I'm not gonna lie, it was on my original long list. Like,
was it really?
I had a couple of it. It really was, yeah. And it didn't make my shorter list cut, but it's a great song. Is that one of those? Is that covered on like Punk Goes Pop 80s edition like compilations or something? You know what I'm talking about? Like those.
Yeah, for sure.
I know those, but I'm not sure if that tracks.
I swear somebody did one of these. I want to say like Starting Line or somebody covered this. I think it was. No, that's a good one, dude. And I feel like they've come up on. We've talked about them before, like the Jefferson Airplane to Jefferson Starship to Starship thing.
I agree. Yeah, I'm stoked on that one. I outside of the movie Mannequin and watching that movie when Krista and I shouldn't have been watching it. Outside of that, also movie came out in 1997, and I remember that song. Or no, I don't know if it was the song that was like. I mean, either way, the song was independently popular of the movie, but I think like that movie did make that song fantastically popular.
That's what I was going to ask. Was it just it was on an album or was it just on the soundtrack? But
no, it was on an album.
Like it was on the album. Okay.
Yeah, the album was called No Protection.
All right, man.
Yeah,
bringing in the pop.
Had to.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring in some hip hop here. I'm going Salt and Pepper. Push It.
Oh, nice.
Great job, Rod.
Now that's something I did not realize was 87.
Well, it didn't. All right. I had to do a lot of research to make sure it was, and it was. I can't find what album this was on, if it was even on an album, but it was released as a single in 87. It was actually the B side of a single in 87, but then It's What the Radio, it got bigger than the A side. I'd never even heard of the A side from it. I'd have to look up what it was. I don't remember, but this was the B side on it. And then this blew up. And then,
nice.
I mean, just talk about influential, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of, obviously all this early hip hop is going to be called influential because it was early. And I'm not saying it wasn't. Like, I mean, LL Cool J put out a record. I don't want to name drop in case other people have picks later, but like there's obviously influential records, but I mean like all female group rapping about actual issues, rapping about sex openly, rapping about like their autonomy openly, but also being cool as fuck and like just writing a killer fucking song too. Like it was, you know.
They were way ahead of their time lyrically, and it's
there's a dude that does there's a dude on TikTok that does these big long explanations of bands. Have you guys? I gotta send it to you guys if I come across it. Have you guys seen this guy? He's like he's got glasses, he's got like a little goatee, but he talks about like the history of these bands, or he starts to talk about individuals and then ties it all together at the end and is like, oh, this is the band. And
I have seen some of those.
Okay, so there's this crazy story about the coolest break room at Sears or something like that. And it was like Salt and Peppa, Martin Lawrence, and like 4 or 5 other rappers that all worked together at Sears and like promised to bring each other up as they started to move up based on their music career. God damn, I got to find that. I wish I had that at the ready, but I'll find it and I'll make sure I send it across. But yeah, did they run fucking deep.
This song too, like, I guess I didn't realize how big it was at the time, which I guess that makes sense because it just entered the zeitgeist. So by the time like we were listening to stuff, I mean, I was 4 when this came out. I wasn't listening to Push It at 4, but like it was just kind of always there. I mean, this hit number 19 on the Hot 100, and like they performed it at Nelson Mandela's 70th birthday concert and shit. Like, I mean, this was massive at the time, and I think it's awesome. This performed like this, and Let's Talk About Sex Later both hit 19. Those their 2 highest charting songs, those 2, and they both hit 19 on the Hot 100. So, and the music's cool too. Like it's got Kinks samples and James Brown samples and stuff. So
there's another big story about the producer of this shit, and I can't remember what all the goddamn. I'm doing a really bad job of bringing shit up and then having no context around what I'm talking to. Rod, we're both out of it on today's episode. Rod's head's in the clouds, and I have all the ideas with no context.
It happens.
Yeah, you're normally great at that stuff, man. You normally got the goods.
I'm all hopped up on fucking caramels and no Diet Cokes today, so homemade caramels.
It's a holiday weekend too. It's a holiday.
We'll use that
weekend,
as our excuse.
You know,
that's the excuse. Dead on.
Kicking it back to you, Ron. You're up. What do you got?
So, man, all right. Now it's getting tough because we really got to pick and choose. Like, what do we want for sure to make this thing? And I feel like this kind of era and sort of subgenre of heartland punk that would later be very, very influential, especially today, has to get a mention. So I'm going to go The Replacements, Alex Chilton.
I had a feeling you were going to pick a replacement song, Ron.
We've been friends a long time.
I mean that in a good way. I'm like, I don't think I have to think about the replacements because I'm pretty sure Ron's going to pick the replacements.
Ron's got this.
So,
I mean,
that's an advantage I do have. Like when we have, like Donnie and I get to pick the guests, so we get to kind of like sometimes it's bitten us in the ass before too, though. Like there's been a couple guests that I'm like, oh, they're for sure picking such and such, and then it didn't happen.
Maybe my favorite replacement song. That song just has a really special place in my heart, and you know, I mean, yeah, you've known me for a long time, man. You've heard me talk about Minneapolis and the Greenbelt Bridge. So yeah, I got to pick a replacements tune.
Yeah. Also just good song, amazing band, Big Star reference. So you get the power pop Big Star thing in there with the Alex Chilton call out, you know, like just influential band, not really. I get the sense they weren't appreciated in their time. I guess, again, I was 4 in 87. So I can't speak to how big the replacements were or weren't. But from the other media I listen to and people who know more than me about music talking about it, it seems like the Replacements are one of those bands that like they were around, like they were making a living, but it wasn't until they broke up or all these other bands that got big later were all talked about the Replacements being like a big influence on them, that they became like a big deal. But
that sounds right. I mean, they were definitely esteemed in some circles, but I think it didn't really branch out too much further than like, really, really diehard music people that were like, oh, the Replacements are coming. And yeah, they made a living, but then, they broke up and, sort of they just became infinitely more appreciated down the road. And I feel like especially now, like with bands like The Hold Steady, which are like one of my favorite new bands, it's just undeniable how big the Replacements were to bands like that. So
yeah, and didn't they go on to like, was it just Paul Westerberg or was the other guy? Like Paul Westerberg had a huge songwriting career after the Replacements too, but didn't the other guys go on to do other stuff too? So it's not like the Replacements just disappeared. Like they were, like those guys continue to be hugely influential in the music industry directly too, through like the things they were putting out in the world.
They definitely did a lot of stuff. I think especially like Minneapolis centric stuff. I think like I might be mixing things up, but I think one of the guys has a restaurant. I think has a restaurant in Minneapolis. I'm not. Don't quote me on that though.
Yeah, well, so Paul Westerberg obviously was a producer and a songwriter and all these other things, and he did the famous one for sure. But like, I'm just randomly clicking on names of the guys in the Replacements. So Chris Mars had like a visual art career after the Replacements. Robert was in like punk bands in Minneapolis after the Replacements. There's too many guys. Oh shit, Tommy Stinson played in a bunch of bands.
Maybe no one had a restaurant.
Yeah, well, maybe. I mean, there's a bunch. I'm not going to just keep clicking.
Google's going to like have it. No one had a restaurant.
It says Tommy Stinson, who was the bass player for Replacements, played in Guns N' Roses from 1998 to 2014.
Things are coming full circle.
That's a long stint.
We're making
holy shit. Prominently featured. Oh, it doesn't sound. He wasn't the primary bass player. It looks like he just did a lot of filling in and shit and played on some tracks on some of their songs and stuff. So anyway, yeah, Replacements, like one of those bands that just had a massive impact on the music scene.
Great call. Good choice.
Donnie, what do you got?
All right. So how many do I have left? I've got 2 left and I have 4 songs. And all right, I'm going to go Faith No More and I'm going to go We Care a Lot. I don't want to call them pioneers of rap rock, but I think that some of the shitty rap rock wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Faith No More. Faith No More was so good, and Mike Patton is so good that it's tough to know if rap rock had gone in the same direction as what Faith No More did. I wonder if that whole genre would have been cooler. But I think Limp Bizkit ruined everything, so it's tough to say.
I mean, it's hard to say, man. Like it's not their fault. Like they didn't know what the future was going to hold. They were just making music that they wanted to make. You know what I mean? It's just
right.
Like,
yeah, you can't. That's always like the age-old question. Like, can you blame the precursors for the stuff that followed them? And I feel like no, you certainly can't. Like that's not on them.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I think about.
Is Pearl Jam to blame for like Nickelback?
Right.
Know, is
fucking probably
Nirvana to blame for Chevelle? Like I don't know. Like
Tool is to blame for Chevelle because Chevelle is Tool light. It's like if you drink a light beer, that's where Chevelle falls in. And those fuckers used to live up in Gurnee when I lived up in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And every time they came into the store that I worked at and like used their Chevelle incorporated credit cards and you didn't make a big deal about it, they would get really butthurt about the fact that it was like, oh, I'm not making a big deal that you're in Chevelle. It's because your music sucks. But yeah, they were. Oh man, fucking Chevelle.
Sorry,
but either way,
they just no, it's
yeah,
for some reason.
No, yeah, you just ruined my Sunday. But it's all good. It's fine. Who, Chevelle? Probably. Who gives a shit?
I never got into them. The only connection I mean, and this is such a small connection. I had my cousin went through a goth phase for like a week and a half. And during her week and a half goth phase, I was the lucky older cousin who got to take her to Ozfest. So I got to go to Ozfest for free. And I was definitely out of place at Ozfest. But I still had a good time nonetheless, because I got to see Ozzy with Zakk Wylde. Marilyn Manson was there.
That's great.
And who else? But anyway, Chevelle was there. And there was a lot of stuff that I kind of sat through that I'd rather not.
And that was when you went and got a beer.
I'm sure there was.
But but then it was like, I mean, dude, I just wanted to see Ozzy, you know? Like,
yeah, of course. So. The song I picked was We Care a Lot, which it was on an album in 1985. The album was titled We Care a Lot, but the album they put it on was Introduce Yourself. And that was the actual production version of We Care a Lot. Whereas the first one was a little more demo-y.
Okay.
So that's how I was able to cheat the system to put Faith No More on the list. Was that the song it's the same song from song sharing the same name, album sharing the same name, but the song that again was on Introduce Yourself, which is a fucking great album.
Yeah, I'm not going to be a stickler on it and care enough to even research and argue with you, because I fucking love We Care a Lot. It's a great fucking song. So
it's still going to be on there. But you know, I mean, we like, if you want to go down the rabbit hole of fucking Mike Patton, have we done that? Am I having fucking deja vu for like the fifth time today?
We haven't really gone heavy down. I mean, Mr. Bungle's come up before, if that's what you're about to say. But we haven't talked much about it. But Mr. Bungle's come up.
And they just put a new album out not that long ago, maybe 2 years ago. And then also there was Fantomas, which, I've had deja vu like 4 times today. I'm convinced somebody fucking spiked my drink. But shit is getting weird. But either way, I'm stoked on Faith No More making the 1987 mixtape, because they deserve to. And pioneers of a music genre, in my opinion.
Yeah, they were. And there's a lot of great stuff that was influenced by Faith No More. So like, just, you know, some shitty rap rock maybe, but that was going to happen anyway, man. Like,
do you think that if you ask fucking Korn who their influences are they saying Faith No More?
I don't actually think they are. Well, maybe now, because it's probably a cool thing to say, but I think they're probably saying like that they listen to metal and rap and they just put it together on their own kind of a thing, but maybe not. I don't know. I guarantee there's a million interviews out there if you really care. I'm sure they've talked about it before. Yeah. You can go look it up.
That whole thing.
And
that whole thing was just such a crazy flash in the pan. Like, it was like
rap rock?
Yeah, no. Well, the late 90s era of it. I mean, I know that doesn't speak for the entirety of the genre, but that I don't know if you would call that the second wave or just like its own sort of like morphish wave. But that whole like Korn followed by Limp Bizkit, followed by just a plethora of stuff, and then it was over by like 99.
Yeah, unless you live in Joliet, Illinois, then it's still just started a couple of years ago.
And I mean, people make fun of this band, and maybe people will make fun of me, but I fucking like 311. Like, and they're probably influenced by Faith No More. Band. So, like,
I hope so.
Right? So there's the good with the bad. So maybe Limp Bizkit was influenced by Faith No More. I don't know, but I think so is 311. So you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
And, you know, Limp Bizkit's fucking selling out shows again now, Ron. So it actually is, it's come full circle.
To each their own, man. Back. I mean, if people like it, all power to them. I don't get it. I mean, admittedly, I'm not a big 311 guy either, but, you know, some people enjoy it.
I do like 311, and I was embarrassed by that for a while, but I
don't
think, dude, it's nothing to be embarrassed by. I mean, that we grew up with that stuff. I mean, like that was like that radio rock. There's going to be some things that you just hold on to. There's going to be some things that you can identify as guilty pleasures. I wouldn't call 311 a guilty pleasure, but like, you know,
I would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey,
but I love them.
Yeah.
First time I was ever offered drugs was at a 311 concert. I saw Zebrahead and 311 in concert.
Nice.
Did you take the drugs?
I did not take the drugs. It was
you fucking square.
I know, such a square.
You fucking nerd.
All right, I'm gonna throw a pop pick out here.
Let's get it.
I'm gonna go Whitney Houston. I Want to Dance with Somebody.
Nice, dude.
I mean, what a jam, right?
What a jam.
So good.
I like how we've all touched. I mean, I haven't had any direct steals from either of y'all yet. And I had some pop stuff. It's just there was just enough to go around, it looks like.
There was, and I think on the surface, when I was looking at 1987, like the first songs that kind of popped up, I'm starting to think, oh yeah, these are great, but we're gonna have a lot of conflicts. And then as I really started to dig into 87, I'm like, no, there's just so much. There's just so much. I did expect, I don't know if either of you had this on your list.
I didn't. I did. I mean, as I went through the investigation, I don't know.
Research?
As I was research, yeah. I'm over here trying to solve crimes. As I fucking went through the research, I saw Whitney Houston on every list. You know, she was fucking everywhere in 1987.
It's just kind of pop bliss. It's one of those. When was the last time you guys listened to this song? And not like I know you can play it in your head right now, like you've got the chorus going in your head, but like actually listened to the song.
I don't know.
A long time, probably. Yeah, so I mean, it's go. You're gonna listen to it, Ron, because you're gonna have to put the mixtape together. It's actually the production on it's not that great. Like the arrangements, just not that. Like if somebody else,
we lost him.
Yeah, did we lose Roderick there for a second?
We did. He's still gone right now.
Yeah, he'll have to edit this later.
This will be a tough one.
Yeah,
it's a great freeze though. I feel like we should screenshot that freeze. His power. I got a text and his power just went out.
Oh no.
Okay, so 2 days later, and I have power.
You have to get that SpongeBob audio of like the many time later.
I wore the same T-shirt.
Yeah. Ron wore this. Ron put the same T-shirt back on for continuity because he's thoughtful.
I kept this shirt on for 2 days for you, buddy.
He's respectful.
Hasn't showered. Yeah. Hasn't changed or showered.
I haven't left this seat in 2 days.
Dude, that's commitment, and I appreciate it.
Like, you have Rod's no a good idea. Friend. I'm going to be here for him.
You're the best. You're the best. I don't have the same clothes on, so I don't even respect myself, apparently.
I also love that Rod has shaken the fog. Rod, there was some fog, Rod.
I was foggy. I feel like I wasn't bringing 100% to the episode, and I'm feeling refreshed now. So the last third of the episode is going to be, I'm going to be better. You guys are fine. I'm going to be better, but you know, it is what it is.
Ron, I was just telling Rod that where I am at right now is under a severe thunderstorm warning and an aerial flood advisory. So if I lose power while this is happening, it's going to be fantastic.
That'll be epic. I also just realized this is the Rod, Ron, and Don show.
Dude.
Rod, Ron, and Don.
I told I had a friend ask who the guest was going to be this week, and I said my friend Ron, and they literally go, "So you're telling me it's Ron, Don, and Rod?" And I was like, "Yeah, it is that." And
I didn't realize it until now, but thanks a lot for pointing it out.
Yeah, you nailed it, Ron. You're right. Well, where we left off, I was about to make a point, and I still remember my point. So I'm just going to get right into it. I asked you guys when the last time you'd listened to I Want to Dance with Somebody was. And of course, you guys were like, I don't remember, because why would you remember that? Mm-hmm. But the point I was making is that the production of the song and like the music and stuff actually isn't that great. And I feel like if somebody else had put that song out, it wouldn't have been a hit. But Whitney is fucking Whitney. And sings the shit out of that song and like makes that song. So even though it's like super catchy and it's like an earworm, and I'm kind of curious if you guys disagree, but like, do you think if like, I don't know, Blondie had recorded that song or something, like it would have been a hit, you know what I mean? Or like,
well, where was I Want to Dance with Somebody in her lineage? It was early, right? It was really early in Whitney starting to gain momentum. She didn't have a ton prior. So I'm wondering like.
She had How Will I Know was her big hit before this.
Same album?
No, different album. So How Will I Know was 85. So, but this, you're right. This was still early. Like this is before the Bodyguard stuff.
Yeah.
This was before like diva era Whitney.
Yeah.
But
that's
almost more to my point. Like she's still an incredible singer. And so she makes this like dancey, poppy summer tune, even though it came out in September, but whatever. It's a fun, right? Like, does Cyndi Lauper have a hit with this song if she doesn't?
I think so. I mean, it's such a well-constructed pop song. I think it would have been a hit no matter what. But I don't think anyone could have done it quite like Whitney. I don't think it would have been as big.
I'm wondering if they just didn't have the budget at the time because there wasn't a ton of momentum yet to provide better production for Whitney that she just wasn't. I mean, I know like How Will I Know was big, but I mean this, I would assuming this kind of eclipsed How Will I Know. This was like the biggest one, I'm assuming.
Probably. I'm not sure. I don't have the numbers, but I mean, this did really well. Like this charted really well, and this won her a Grammy for best female vocal performance. So like, yeah, like it did really well. It was shopped around. Like it was passed up by other artists before it got to Whitney. So like there were other people that were like, no, I don't like this. And I'm wondering if it's because like the demo or just the music didn't like do it. And then Whitney was just like crushed it. Yeah. Anyway, it was interesting. I just wanted to bring that up. I think she made this song fantastic. And I like dancey, fun Whitney. Not that I don't like, diva Whitney, belting it out, slow song Whitney. Like that's great too. But I love like How Will I Know? And I Want to Dance with Somebody. Like I love Whitney. Like pop Whitney. It's just fun. So that's my third pick. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. Back over to you, Ron, for your last pick.
Yeah.
So last pick, I'm going to go with what I have for my closer. This is an anthem. This is a song that is, I would argue, more relevant now than when it was written. REM, It's the End of the World as We Know It.
Patriotic, slam, fight, bright, light, feeling, pretty sight. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it.
Dr. PCF is going to be so stoked.
I'm so glad you picked that, dude. Like I was hoping I wasn't going to have to decide between REM and some other stuff. So
how can you not have that? I mean, that's just...
I'm glad you picked it.
On.
Is this like one of the most memed songs too, do you think? Or not memed, that's kind of the modern, like spoofed songs? Like this and We Didn't Start the Fire feels like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because of the way the verses go. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those types of things. And it's usually if somebody tries it at karaoke, they either really know it, like you can tell they spent a lot of time waiting for this moment, or
like practicing at home.
They're just being practicing in front of a mirror. Yeah. If somebody does this karaoke, they're either just goofing off and they're in over their head, or they don't need that lyric scroll. One of the two. There's no in between.
They're gonna like mumble their way through it and try to play it off as like them being funny, or they nail it,
or they nail it. I mean, the last time I saw somebody do We Didn't Start the Fire karaoke, they were dancing around, singing at everybody in the bar, and they came prepared.
Yeah, I mean, can we just also just appreciate the amount of lyrics in this song? Like, is word count in a pop song
right?
Like matter? Because that's like hell
I'm pretty
of a word count.
Sure he Michael Stipe in more recent years before they broke up, whenever they would do this live, Michael Stipe would have like a music stand with him. Like I think he had to kind of read some of it.
No shit.
And Michael Stipe nobody made a music stand, like using a music stand, look cooler than Michael Stipe. Like he did
have a music stand aesthetic for sure.
He had a music stand and he still looked cool as hell. Like I'm like, dude. Yeah. I don't even know if Freddie Mercury could have made the music stand look cool, but frickin' Michael Stipe did. Michael Stipe, music stand looking cool. I don't even think Mick Jagger could pull that off.
That's a big compliment. Who else could? Like, who else could?
I think Jim Morrison could off. I think Jim Morrison could make a... He would have thrown it or something.
Yeah, I was going to say he would have thrown it or like pole danced on it or something.
But he would have made it cool for like a few minutes. I'm sure Mick Jagger probably could. I'm sure Freddie Mercury probably could. But Michael Stipe did. Michael Stipe, he looked cool with that music stand. Like I wanted to go out and get a music stand.
Yeah, not to make it a callback, but I actually feel like Morrissey could pull off a music stand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I don't know, like, but it feels pretentious for him to do it, but that's okay.
I'll say that.
Yeah, well, like
Morrissey,
he'd have his reading glasses or something, and then go into like, then go into like a rockabilly banger.
Oh, dude. Oh, that's good. That's good. Like that is a hard thing to pull off, but you're right. Like he could probably do it. Blues Traveler could do it.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I was going to fucking say Blues Traveler. That's
shit.
Weird. Yeah, that's really weird. And I was like, John Popper could probably pull off a music stand. And I was like, Blues Traveler's not that cool to talk about. But then you did it, so now it is.
I love Blues Traveler. It came up.
Good for you.
I mean, I'm not a connoisseur, but...
I mean, they got some jams, right? They got some jams.
That's like...
I love the story behind The Hook. And we won't talk about it here in case it ever comes up again. But there's a great story behind the song The Hook. And it's kind of like their punk rock. I mean, it's not a punk song, but it's like their like "fuck you" record label song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it became like a hit. So that's cool, man, dude. I don't know, Ron. I feel like you I guess there's no bad, like there's so much good music in this decade, but you really hit like some genre defining artists on this one. Heavy.
Man, I a lot of honorable mentions, dude, because it was a hell of a year for music. So I had a lot of thoughts, but yeah, those are my 4 based on the mathematics of the rotation here.
Ron, where was your collection of music at the time? Were you pop radio? Were you like, I'm collecting music from local shows? Where were you collecting your content from? Was it like, I'm going to go to the record store and the record store is going to tell me what I need? Or,
Well,
1980.
87? You're asking me 87? Bro,
Yeah.
I was 3 years old, so I was just kind of...
you weren't collecting much music at all.
My parents would play something and I would listen to it. That was the extent
that's
of
fair.
what I had.
That's fair.
But once I became cognizant, I mean, for me, and I feel like we're all the same era here. Like it started with the cassettes. Like I got into cassettes in like the 90s, and like a lot of them were like dubbed, and then I would start buying my own. And then remember the first Discmans were freaking horrible. Like if you breathe.
Oh
the CD
yeah,
would
you
skip.
set them in your palm and didn't move. Yeah, for
Before,
sure.
before anti-skip.
Yeah, they freaking sucked. So I remember like I got my first Discman and I returned it. I was like, this is some bullshit. They mastered it with the Walkman. They're never gonna surpass this. Technology has peaked. And I went back to the cassettes.
First off, that's the right answer. Cassettes, starting with cassettes is the right answer. So
Yeah.
there are wrong answers because that just means people are too young to be on this podcast. But I do remember the Walkman. Like they had the athletic specific Walkmans that just
the yellow ones.
The yellow ones, yes, they looked more athletic.
Sony Sport.
And I'm sure they function the exact same way. But looking back now, they still had the puffy foam, heavy, thick foam headphones on. Can you imagine running in those thick foam headphones? Those things had to smell so bad and just like disintegrate after a while. Like the metal, it was a metal headband thing on it, and you're sweating on top of metal. Like that can't have been a good experience.
Dude,
Like,
I think about all that stuff. I think about how when I was in preschool, we had a jungle gym that was installed in the gymnasium. So we were like climbing on gym equipment with like wood down below with like, or like a, like whatever gymnasium basketball.
why did you have a jungle gym inside your gymnasium for like rainy days?
Pennsylvania's a rainy place, Roderick.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Pittsburgh's heavy.
Pittsburgh's
rain,
about as rainy as it gets. So we had a jungle gym inside the gymnasium. And then I was like, why did they do that? And then I remember, I'm like, oh yeah, every day there was like a different kid who was seriously hurt.
I was
like
like
every day.
Ask, like how many kids were hurt?
Makes sense.
All of them every day. A kid got hurt, and you were just waiting your turn to like. Eventually, you're gonna fall. Something's gonna happen, and the parents were just like, "Well, that's just how it goes."
I'll share this, and fuck, whatever. I'll share it. At least they just didn't let you outside because where I grew up, it didn't rain enough. Like if it was really coming down, we would stay inside. But if it was just like drizzling, or if it had just rained, we'd still go outside. And I remember playing basketball at recess right after rain, and getting pushed in the mud, into a puddle in the mud, and they made you go to the nurse's office and get like the spare clothes that they had in the office in elementary school. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like they had like extra clothes in case like a kid pissed himself or something. But I just got pushed in a puddle. They had no boys' clothes left, so I got given girls' pants and a girl's shirt and sent back to class. And you know damn well that scarred me for the whole rest of the year. Like I never lived down.
Now you have a music podcast about mixtapes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what happens.
That's what happens. Like I was just in my feels and listening to, who knows, but I still remember the dude. I still remember the dude who pushed me. His name was Kyle Rudman. His last name was Rude Man. And I'll tell you what, he was a fucking rude dude. Pushing me in that puddle, making me wear girls' clothes. That son of a bitch.
All right,
I haven't let
here's
that go.
Here's my hope for this. Here's my hope.
What if he's a listener now?
Totally, that's number
what if he's
one.
Gonna
I
hit
hope
you up
that
and be like, "Hey man, I'm sorry. We were young. I actually love the pod."
He probably has no memory of this.
I'd be more stoked if Kyle hits up like the Instagram is like, you know what, he fucking deserved it.
I remember getting in a fight with Kyle over kickball once too, like a fist fight with that dude over kickball. We were friends though. Like we played on the same soccer team. We were friends, but he was He was a bit of a bully to me at times, and I had to wear girls' clothes, and I haven't forgotten it, Kyle. I haven't forgotten it.
It's a bit of a frenemy thing going.
I'm just going to throw this out there. He was just mad because I was better at basketball than him, and I was making him look like a fool. So he pushed me. That was his only recourse. Putting it out there.
Who knew that Roderick had hoops too?
Oh!
I've seen Roderick. Roderick can play.
Yeah, thanks, Ron.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
We would play.
I appreciate the backup. I had no backup last week. Our guest took Donnie's side on everything, so I appreciate the backup.
Rightfully so.
All right, Donnie.
My last pick. I'm gonna do In Excess. Never Tear Us Apart.
I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never, ever tear us apart.
Oh. That's a banger.
Again, great karaoke song. A band that I feel like had they not experienced the tragedy that they did would have been so big for so long. Like their trajectory was unstoppable had Michael Hutchinson, is that his last name? Had Michael Hutchinson not died, I feel like In Excess would have transcended time for a long time. Maybe like we've talked about on episodes past, been one of those genre fluid bands that could have moved around a little bit. They found their niche pretty early on and then rode it out until the end. But I do think that they had so much more to offer had they, continued to make music, know. Great band, great song, hell of a karaoke jam for sure. If you can hit them notes, this is a big one to belt out.
They were an impressive band, and I agree with you. If there hadn't been tragedy, who knows what they could have done. But all that said, this is a cheesy ass album cover, right? Like
it's the
weird
worst.
Floating skateboard.
Oh, it's the worst.
As though he's like, what is he supposed to be doing? Ramping over the band or something?
Yeah.
What is that? At the time, maybe it didn't look cheesy, but that album cover did not age well at all. No. Really poor.
But
that's a theme for another episode.
Shitty album covers.
Oh, that's good. Like great
shitty
songs.
Album great song, shitty album covers.
And like the dude on the skateboard, I mean, we can't see who it is. We just see their legs, but they're wearing like combat boots while they're skating. Like, what are you doing, guys?
Yeah.
But I mean, heartthrobs, all of them.
Oh, serious hunks. It's a band of hunks for sure.
Band of hunks. Yeah. For sure. They reformed, like they did some like reunion stuff, didn't they?
They did, yeah. They had a couple different singers that did some shit.
This is In Excess is like the fourth or fifth Australian band that's already come up on the podcast. We did the O Canada episode. I don't think I realized how many bands were from Australia. Like that might need to be a future episode too. Yeah, did you know In Excess was Australian?
I didn't know that.
I feel like now that you mention it, it makes sense. I feel like they sing accenty.
They look like surfers, so they're either from California or like Australia in the 80s. Yeah.
Roderick, over to you.
Good pick. All right. Well, I didn't know what my pick was going to be until now. I had it narrowed down to two, but there hasn't been like a slow jam yet on this mixtape. And
I'm
so
intrigued.
I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do this more just for variety on the mixtape as per the rules. And also because the album this is from was a massive album. And I'll preface this with, I'm not a fan of this band.
Oh.
But I do like this song. So I'm going to go U2, With or Without You.
Great call.
It's a good song, right? And I'm not a big U2 fan. Our friend Ron, our mutual friend Zach Canali, who was a guest, our second guest, I think, or third guest on the show, he's a massive U2 fan.
Second guest.
I think we've talked about it before because I am the opposite of that.
I am too. I think
I am one of those. I don't get it. Like I have friends that won't bring it up.
I feel like I had talked to you about this, Ron, but I couldn't remember which side you were on. If you were on Zach's side or my side. I am not a U2 fan.
I know we had to have talked about this. Like this had to have come up. And it's either one camp or another. And I've always been, people have tried. They're like, listen to some of the early stuff. Listen. Did you listen? Yes. Did you listen? Well, what do you think? I feel like it's like, this is the Clash if they didn't care about anything. I don't get it. I just don't. People love it. It's me. but I don't get it.
I don't get it either. So you don't have to, I don't know. What are your feelings on U2, Donnie? They do seem like a pretty like polarizing band for as big as they are.
So I have strict rules in terms of being able to say I hate a band, right? In order to say I hate a band, I can't like a single song. I fucking hate AC/DC. There is not a single redeeming AC/DC song. But like U2, I can't say I hate this band because With or Without You is a great fucking song.
Great song.
Sunday Bloody Sunday, great fucking song. The rest of it, throw it in the fucking toilet. I couldn't be bothered with the rest of U2's catalog. Also, don't ever put a fucking album on my phone and expect me to still like you.
That wasn't
100%.
Cool.
Not cool at all. All that said, this song is a fantastic song. It was a #1 hit when it came out, so it was a #1 song that year. Mm-hmm. Joshua Tree is again, I'm not a U2 fan, so U2 fans out there, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but isn't this considered their best album, or at least like one of their best albums? It's probably debatable.
It's a classic album. Yeah, I mean, there's I feel like it's actually, I think, rare that all three of us would be in the same camp when it comes to U2, like three random people who like music. But yeah, c'est la vie. And I do agree. I think that's a good barometer. You can't really say hate unless there's no song that you care for it. And yeah, I am in agreement. I do like this song. This is a great song.
Yeah.
Can't deny it. It's one of the few that if it was on, I wouldn't switch it. Like usually, I like Sirius, I use Sirius. And usually if it says, as soon as I see U2, I immediately switch it. But but if it's this song,
I have three U2 songs that I like, and it's their biggest song. So I guess call me like a fair weather U2 listener because it's just their three biggest hits. But I'm not a U2 fan. But Sunday Bloody Sunday, With or Without You, and I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I like those three songs. Everything else, I'll no, thank you.
Wish they'd have hung it up after those three.
People are going to be pissed at us because, to your point, Ron, like statistically, the three of us shouldn't all not be U2 fans, and that's fine. Like
I've gotten some hate mail over U2 before.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm not saying that they shouldn't exist. It's just not for me, and I just don't get it, and I'm okay not to get it. Don't try to make me get it. I've listened to U2 and I don't like it. I just like a few. But that said, I really like this song. I don't change it when it comes on. I've actively gone to listen to this song before. The only U2 song I can say that about. It's great. It's a touching song. It's been in a lot of like other media and used well, and like I just dig it. And I feel like this mixtape needed a slow jam. Something to slow dance to.
The Joshua Tree is album number 135 of the Rolling Stones 500 greatest albums of all time.
See, I feel like this is like a branch off. This is a branch off podcast right here. Like three aging music dudes who don't get U2.
Who don't get U2.
Just going through their lives, not
Dude, that
getting
sounds like
U2.
torture. So what, is it just like a stream of guests trying to convince us why we should listen to U2? We have to decide at the end of every episode if we actually want to like U2 or not.
If we don't like them more.
Yeah. That sounds like torture. Why would I do that to myself? I am not going to do that to myself.
It'd be pretty funny. Like just a bunch of people. Like, what? You don't like this? Like, no, I don't.
No, every season is a different band. Like season 1's U2. Season 2 is AC/DC. Season 3 is The Doors. I'm sorry, Ron. You brought up Jim Morrison.
See, I like the Doors. So there might be a band that we're not all in unison on.
I like maybe one Doors song, but I very much dislike the Doors. I dislike Pink Floyd.
See, these are all the bands no one's neutral on. Like,
you're right.
People either love the Doors or just don't. And I can see why people don't get. I love the Doors, but I get why people don't get it. I totally get how it's not for everybody. Pink Floyd, it's one of those things. As a listener, I don't connect a lot with it, but I respect it for what it is.
I'm not talking respect.
But I can't. No, I understand.
Respect is different. I will believe music historians when they tell me how influential a band was. I'm just going to trust that they know what they're talking about. That doesn't mean I like the music. So Pink Floyd's one of those bands. Grateful Dead, one of those bands. Sorry, Deadheads. I like, there's a handful of Grateful Dead songs I like. Like they're a little higher on the list than Floyd for me. But anyway, I don't want this to become But that's an interesting podcast, Ron. Just like every season's a different band that these three people don't like. You have to convince them.
Ron, if you start it, you let us know. We'll be your first guest.
Yeah, I'm not starting that shit. But if somebody wants to take that and run with it, hey, Donnie, maybe we'll start a podcast network.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
It's different. We're ambitious. Ron, you can be a part of it for sure.
Just a curmudgeon-y dude going just like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why? Tell me why I don't get it.
Well, there's the name of it. It's the Curmudgeon Group.
The Curmudgeon Group. The Curmudgeon Podcast Network.
Yeah, this is an official Curmudgeon podcast. All right, there we go.
Rod, what do you got for honorable mentions? You're up first for honorable mentions. Throw a few of them at us.
Ron
refresh me.
You said Ron.
Yeah, I said Ron. Yeah, I said Ron.
Sorry.
So what is this? Just like we just name other things on our list that haven't
couple
been, or do we go
couple ones that almost didn't make the cut. That it's like had somebody stole one of mine, I probably would have put this on there.
Yeah. So I didn't have any direct steals, but a few honorable mentions. So I had Circle Jerks, Beat Me Senseless, Ramones, I Want to Live. Like I definitely dug into the punk catalog, and then there was that whole side of like songs from bands from the 70s where it wasn't their strongest efforts come 1987, but there was still some gems in there. Jethro Tull, Farm on the Freeway, Bruce Springsteen, Tougher Than the Rest, Sonic Youth, Catholic Block.
See, all these are good honorable mentions, but they belong as honorable mentions because they're like all good bands who are putting out music, but they were not even close to their best efforts. Even Circle
Sonic
Jerks
Youth,
and Ramones and Sonic Youth, all those bands. Like I went back and listened to. I kind of breezed through that Sonic Youth record in this, thinking like, Sonic Youth put out a record in '87. It's not a bad record by any means, but it's just not peak Sonic Youth. So I feel like it belongs in honorable mention. Man? That's a good call.
It's not peak Sonic Youth, but when you listen to it, you're like, oh, this really had an impact
still Sonic
on
Youth.
Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's still great. Like, it's a fun one. And then, dude, I'm surprised. Here's a couple that I'm surprised no one had. George Michael's Faith.
Yep. Well, there's one of my honorable mentions, so I'll just say it right now. So Faith was one of my honorable mentions.
Okay, I guess I'll
No, it's all good. Say your other one, because maybe it's my other. Maybe you'll just name my honorable mentions.
I was going to say Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me.
I'm surprised Donnie didn't have Def Leppard.
Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me was one of my honorable mentions. Had a funny story about Hysteria getting, when my car got broken into and my CD player got stolen out of my car. Hysteria was in the CD player.
Was it? When did this happen?
2006, maybe 2006.
Okay, so a while ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
So somebody didn't just get a radio. They got some Def Leppard.
Oh, you know what? At the time, it was a sweet fucking '92 Caprice Classic. They stole the subwoofers out of the trunk. They stole everything. Yeah, it was a heartbreaker. But I committed insurance fraud.
What's your
my other?
Whoa!
What's up? My other one is Eazy-E and Boys in the Hood. So, NWA and the Posse, Boys in the Hood.
Yeah, I had George Michael, Faith, for sure. But now I'm going to name two others.
Do it.
So Eric B. and Rakim, Paid in Full. And you know what? I almost had this in my top 4, but I don't feel comfortable talking about him yet or still. But Smooth Criminal. Like, Michael Jackson put out Bad in 1987. And, like, Michael Jackson owned 1987. And he didn't come up on the podcast. He at least deserves an honorable mention. And for me, it's Smooth Criminal. I always loved that song. It was always one of my favorite MJ songs. But
the song, the video,
the whole thing, all of it. Yep.
Yeah, I don't blame you for not feeling stoked. I don't feel ready. I don't feel ready to tackle it yet.
I just didn't want to breach that subject, just whatever. But he gets an honorable mention. That album's great, and Smooth Criminal's awesome. And fuck, man, a lot of good music. I can already tell when we do future years, Donnie. This is how it's going to be every time.
Yeah,
you have a whole year's worth of music to choose from. That's just hard.
Hey, I already know what's for sure going on my 1999 one.
Do you?
No, I can't. I got to save it.
All right.
Well, Ron, here's a funny fact. Okay, so, and we've talked about it in podcasts past, but we'll bring it up again just to educate you as well and continue to educate the listeners. Smooth by Carlos Santana and Rob Thomas came out in 1999, and it was one of the most played songs of the entirety of the 90s.
Yeah,
and
it
existed for 1 year.
I didn't know
Less than a year.
that it was 99, but yeah, they played that so much. They still do.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I mean, Shit, this was fun. Donnie, you want to run down the final list?
Yeah, let's do the damn thing. Okay, so we got the Smiths. Stop me if you think you've heard this before. Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle. The Cure, Just Like Heaven, Dinosaur Jr. in a Jar. Starship, Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. Salt and Pepper, Push It. Also, if you guys get a chance, John Mulaney's stand-up where he talks about Patrick Stewart introducing Salt and Pepper on Saturday Night Live. If you haven't heard it, it's fantastic.
Okay.
The Replacements, Alex Shifton. Is that my saying that right? Shilton. Alex Shilton. Faith No More, We Care a Lot. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. REM, It's the End of the World as we know it. In Excess, Never Tear Us Apart. And U2, With or Without You.
Ooh, banger list, man. That's a banger.
Ron, you got some work in terms of sequencing.
Ron, I'll text you that final list just so you have it. But in the, you got a few days, but send me your final order for that, Ron. And
I send you the order?
Oh, yeah. You get to decide the order. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, fun.
I know. It's not a final mixtape until you decide what order it goes in. It's an arch, I know. Man. And we will critique you on the next episode at the beginning.
That's fair.
So,
I mean, okay, cool. I look forward to deciding that.
So I'll send that to you.
How to make a mixtape.
Well, hey, Ron, thanks for being on, man. Really appreciate it.
Good times.
Thanks for being patient in our multi-day recording here.
Dude, the elements tried to set us back, but we were not having it. We're like, we're doing this podcast. We're doing this mixtape.
I love it.
Everybody, make sure you go check out ronplacone.com because you never know, like left at wall. I don't know if it is going to be available in the U.S., like distribution-wise.
Yeah, we're working on the next step. Okay, so once screening wraps in June, we're going to be working on the next steps, which is distribution. So I should have some announcements in the coming months.
And just if you're a fan of stand-up comedy, just follow Ron so that you can see him when he comes to your town. And the 1000 podcast with Ron Placone. Just check out all Ron's stuff.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, and also we always forget to say this, Donnie. I got to get better at this, but also like if you don't follow this podcast, can you follow it and give us a review and a rating? I'm so bad at doing that whole thing, but it really does help. Like we've got a 5-star review right now, which is helpful. Our followers, our active followers, are slowly going up, consistently going up. So tell your friends, follow. And Ron, thank you again, man. It was a good time.
Yeah, good times.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, dudes.
Thanks.